Welcome to the Dynamics Hotdish, the podcast where Ashley Steiner, Allie Nelson, and Liz McLennan dish up the latest news and insights about Dynamics and the Power Platform. Join us to explore business applications and low-code development with tips, tricks, and real-world experiences. So grab a seat at the table and let's dig in.
So this week we're starting off a little differently, right? I think we all have something in front of us. We're really excited to share this with everybody that's listening or watching the podcast, but this is our 100th episode of the Dynamics Hotdish. We've been doing this since January of 2021. So a little over a year and a half. And so we brought champagne today to toast. We're so excited. So cheers to 100 episodes and 100 more, both of you, Liz and Allie.
Yeah, wait, and I'm doing some fast math there, and I think it's 2.5 years.
Oh my God, am I that
January of 2021.
I mean, it is the end of 2023, so...
Maybe I already had some champagne, and that's why my math's a little off.
But hey, time flies when you're having fun.
Cheers.
Cheers to 100 episodes.
You know, in my head, too, I was like, I think it's been 2 years. And then I'm like, no, it's only been a year and a half. Thanks, Allie.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I was seriously contemplating the math, though. I was like, wait a second, where are we at?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I'm like, this is too short.
Awesome. So I think we also wanted to talk about like our favorite episodes. So as part of our 100-year celebration and we're all going to be sipping on champagne throughout this whole episode. Just briefly before we get into today's topic, wanted to talk about our favorite episodes over the last 2.5 years. Thank you, Allie. So Allie, since you're the newest to join us, why don't you go first?
Absolutely. So I have to admit, and I think both of you know that, but I'll share this for our listeners as well. But I totally listened to the podcast before I was a part of it. So I was there almost from the very beginning. I don't think I started listening right away at the beginning, but very shortly thereafter, because I remember driving somewhere, probably to visit my parents in Wisconsin, and I cranked through like 4 or 5 episodes on the ride. And then I would just listen to it like periodically. But I will share the episode that has stuck with me the most. And it's really funny because it's not even Dynamics related. And I can paint the whole picture because I remember where I was going when I was listening to it. I live in St. Paul and I was driving to the Target in Inver Grove Heights, which doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I remember this because I never go to that Target, but I was doing a pickup order and my normal Target was out of what I needed. I'm giving you guys the whole background so you can visualize me driving to the Target listening to the podcast.
This is like totally an Allie story too, because we get like all the details, so I love it.
There you go. And so anyway, and I was listening to it and I parked and I was waiting for my order, and normally I'll like mute it when they're coming because, you know, I have to pay close attention when they're going to be coming out with my stuff, you know how it goes. But anyway, I was sitting there still listening to it, and I just remember Ashley ranting about Post-it notes. That's what the episode was. Is the one that...
I remember that one.
Which
yeah,
one?
It was so good.
Like I talk about Post-it notes all the time.
It was like a productivity.
Was it the time management one or the productivity maybe?
It was productivity. Awesome. Yeah. And I remember too, I'm just sitting there like, yes, I totally get that. And I've like found myself like relating to them. Yeah, oh yeah. And
so
I just found myself
listening. We're all holding up our stack of unused Post-it notes that sit in our desks. Sorry, Allie, go ahead.
No, I love it. And I use Post-it notes, but that was the one episode too where I'm like, oh yeah, this is a relatable podcast because I do the same thing and I feel the same exact way. And I 100% agree with everything Ashley is saying right now. And that episode just stuck with me through and through. And it's like by far the most memorable episode I've listened to. So in case I've never shared that with you guys, now you know what I was doing when I fell in love with Dynamics Hotdish.
That's so funny. I love the contribution that I've made is Post-it notes and nothing like technical related.
Well, and actually,
I remember like firing me up is what it was. Yeah,
I gave you a lot of crap because I was like all into Planner or ADO in that episode, and I have officially converted to Post-it notes because I'm like, I don't have time. There's too many tabs open. I don't get to Planner. There's still strategic stuff on Planner, but like the day-to-day like goes on the Post-it note now. And now they're like crumpled up all over my desk when I'm done with them.
It's so satisfying to like rip them off your desk, crumple them, and like throw them away when you're done. There's just something about like Planner that just does not meet the same level of satisfaction. So
no, the thing I'm missing though is a garbage can like by my desk so I can like easily toss them away.
Oh no, I have a garbage can under my desk because I eat a lot of snacks.
Same. The other reason I love Post-it notes, I don't know if you guys are doodlers while people are talking, but I am. And so when I have a Post-it note in front of me, I just like can draw pictures and like, I don't know, it helps me concentrate sometimes. So that's why I also like them. And then sometimes
I have a fidget spinner when I'm not on calls, and I use that like if I'm not on video. But mine just broke, so I'm definitely gonna be on the lookout for one at Summit.
And it wouldn't be a podcast without Panther.
No. Hi Panther. Ashley's cat just jumped on.
So Liz, what about you?
All right,
What's
Liz.
your most memorable podcast?
Yeah, so it's hard to pick, but I would say the first one where I came back this year, Allie joined us, and it was about Chat GPT, just because it was my first one back, and I think that's such an exciting topic that extends so much further than like our normal audience of just Dynamics Power Platform focused people. So because I was so excited about the topic and it was the first one, I have to say that's my favorite right now.
That's such a good one. That one too got feedback from like my relatives. I think I told you this, but my aunt texted me and was like, I share this out with people to explain what ChatGPT is and what the AI is and everything. So we got a lot of good feedback on that one too from people who I don't think would normally listen, but it plugged them in. So that's an awesome choice, Liz. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's awesome. I liked that episode too because you called me a witch.
Oh yeah, we did look up. I forgot
up,
that.
Like the black cat. I'll never forget.
Oh.
You were like, but you're no longer a witch. I don't know why that sticks in my head. That's so funny.
I had forgotten about that part.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. So yeah.
Ashley,
all right, Ashley.
So my favorite episode was a long time ago. Almost 2.5 years ago. Allie, thank you for the call out on the subtraction that I did terribly.
Just keep saying it over and over so it'll stick with you.
I know, right? So it was one of the first series, Liz, that we did. We did like a oh my God, just too much champagne already. DEI series, right? And we had Elizabeth, and I'm going to forget her last name. She was your professor.
Campbell,
and she did taught your gender studies class, I think. And we had her on to kind of talk about, and it wasn't even necessarily like a women in the workplace, but it was talking about just high performers in the workplace. And as somebody who has always thought of myself as a high performer and not ever really finding a place or feeling comfortable in the workplace, I found that entire podcast so enlightening. And it really kind of changed the way that I think of myself on teams or like interacting with bosses, and it really kind of completely changed my life. So again, a non-dynamics one, but I feel like the dynamic stuff is more about what we're giving to other people, and I think the things that we get the most out of the podcast are like the non-technical, non-dynamic stuff. So yeah, that one completely changed my life. Probably one of the biggest reasons I became an independent consultant, because I just found that I need to create my own team. So
yeah, I loved that one too. She was one of my favorite professors, and I recall that episode being too long, like way past our 30-minute mark, because we just like couldn't stop talking about it. Yeah,
that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it was like almost an hour. That was our longest podcast I think that we've ever had, because we just didn't want to stop asking questions. We were like, well, what about this? And what about this? And you asked about the Purdue chickens and things like little random things I just remember from all of our podcasts, like not even on the topic, just random stuff. So yeah, I would say that one.
I'm going to go find that one and resurrect it, and I'll share it out with all of our listeners on social too. I think that'd be awesome to share. I don't think I've listened to that one even. Maybe I shouldn't admit that, but now I'm sold and I want to listen to it. So I'll find it and I'll share it with everybody.
It was definitely in that first, like, little bit of that series, you know, like, it was an early on podcast, so.
And one of our first guests, too, I want to say. We were pretty fresh to having guests on at that time. But, yeah, it's one of my favorites as well. And I think it resonates, again, with a lot of people because it's not about the tech at all. It's about performance in the workplace, so...
Thank you guys for sharing your favorite episode. I'm really excited to be a part of the podcast more, and cheers to 100 more episodes.
Cheers.
Salute.
Salute.
Thanks for tuning in to Dynamics Hotdish, your go-to podcast for all things Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for even more insights and updates on the latest trends and best practices in business applications and low-code development. We'll be back soon with another delicious serving of Dynamics and Power Platform goodness. Until then, keep innovating and building great solutions.